Hey there, everybody. Kyle Sasser here. And it's everybody's favorite time of the month. That's right, it's real estate market statistics time. These real estate statistics are for Pinellas County, Florida, August 2024. Now, you might be asking yourself, on this report it says July 2024. Why is he calling these the August numbers? Well, these are the most recent numbers that I have, and the reason why is because we compare month to month. Week to week is too short. There's too much variance in weeks to week. Month to month is a much better way to gauge and compare. The other thing is week to week is too short, and so we break it down into month-long segments. The other thing to know here is that we are not entirely comparing month to month. I do look at month to month recently, the last couple years, just because the market has been shifting a lot. It has not been steady, not the word I would use to call it. So we compare year to year. So we are comparing July 2024 to July 2023. And from that, we can discern where the market is at now. Now, if you would like your own copy of these stats, you can follow the link down below. That'll take you to the website. You can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get these stats in your email each and every month. But yeah, let's dive into it. All right, well, let's deep dive into these market statistics for Pinellas County. Total number of closed sales was down at 0.8% from 875 to 868 homes. Cash sales was down 3% from 296 to 287 cash sales. Median sales price was down 1.9% from 484,000 to 475,000, and average sales price was up 4.7% from 612,181 to 640,663. Median percent of original list price dropped from 96.8% to 94%. And so what that means is of the original asking price, what was the eventual sales price? And so basically the eventual sales price is a lot lower compared to the asking price than it was last year. Median time to contract was up 163.6% from 11 days to 29 days. Number of new listings was up 21.4% from 959 homes newly listed in July 2023 to 1,164 in July 2024. Total active inventory was up 120.6% from 1,349 to 2,976. And doom and gloom, foreclosures and short sales. Foreclosures dropped 25% from 4 to 3 total. And there was no short sales. The reason for that primarily is because you can sell a house, pay off the mortgage, stop the foreclosure, and put money in your bank accounts with where home prices are currently for most homeowners. Now, we've had a couple blips in the Pinellas market, if you've been watching these videos. So you know that we had a big demand drop over the wintertime. So we got all the way down to only 572 homes sold in the entire county in January. That is super low. But things have recovered since then, which is to be expected as we get to summertime. The number of sales increases. But we're still definitely below where we usually are for the last few years. We're usually more at like the 1,000 or above level, and we're currently like under 900, for the last few months. So it's definitely low for this time of year, but it has recovered a little bit. So, demand side has come back a little bit as expected. The main change is that the number of new listings has held or even increased a little bit. So we have been building that inventory up. Usually, whenever you have more supply than demand, the rules of supply and demand say that prices should go down, which I 100% agree with. However, in real estate, that takes a pretty significant amount of time. Usually it takes 6 to 12 months for a price decline to really shape up. And then if we look at the median sales price, we can see that the sales price has swung pretty significantly. So in January, the median sales price was all the way down to $455. The overarching problem here, though, is when you usually are selling 1,000 houses and now you're selling 500 houses, that median price is going to move a lot more depending upon what sells. So a little grain of salt on that, the low of 430 in December and 455. Currently, like April, we were at 485. May, we were at 485. June, we were at 489. July, we dropped to 475. So there's definitely been some movement there. It's a little early to call it a trend, but maybe. It all depends on how that demand-supply balance works itself out. Now, I do like to dive into the different price points because $1 million house does tend to sell at a little bit different time frame than a $400,000 house. Primary reason is the buyer pool for a $400,000 house. There's a lot more people that are buying those priced homes, so they tend to sell a little bit quicker. So far as like total number of closed sales, I don't usually read out all this stuff. There was basically nothing sold under $150,000. 150 to 200,000, there's a total of 12 houses, and that just kind of continues all the way up to 300,000. There's not a lot of homes selling in those price points. At 300 to 400,000, we had 215 homes sold, 400 to 600, 280, 170 in the 600 to a million, and then 120 in the 1 million or more. Median time to contract, everything is hanging out in, high 20s to 30s. So, for example, 200 to 250, 30 days, 300 to 400,000 is at 30 days. 400 to 600 is at 26 days, 600 to a million is at 29 days. Pretty clear that things are taking a little bit longer to sell. Total number of new listings, again, our dividing line is about, I'd say 300 is where the big jump is. So under 300,000, there's maybe 90 houses that were newly listed, but like 400 to 600,000, there was 412 houses, which was an increase of 20%. 300 to 400,000, there was 32.7% more houses listed for sale, total of 268. And 600 to a million, there was 7.1% increase, total of 226. And then total inventory, we got some big numbers here. These are always fun. 150 to 200. So this is end of the month. We pull it by price category, and we're like, how many houses between 150 to 200,000 are for sale? 150 to 200,000 increased 550%. Total of 13 houses. 250 to 300 went up 181% to 104 homes. 300 to 400,000 was up 170 to 486 homes. 400 to 600,000 was up 145% to 963. 600 to a million almost doubled, 96.9% to 699. And a million or more went up 84.9% to 686. Total homes for sale at the end of the month. So those are the Pinellas County stats. So if you think back to your mathematics class, you might remember mean and median and mode, or average, I think is mean is the equivalent of mean. So an average is where you would take, say, 5 houses. You would add up the prices that those houses sold for, divided by 5, and that gives you the average price. Median is a little bit different, though. So what median is that's where you have, let's say, 30, 40, 50 homes. The median price is the house where there's an equal number of homes at a higher price and a lower price. So it's more of the true midpoint of the market. Average sales price tends to get pulled a lot harder if there was significantly expensive homes sold or a lot of significantly less expensive homes. Median does not tend to get pulled as much by those kind of outlier cases, although with the number of sales being as low as they are, it does move more than it had previously. So obviously, if you're selling 800 or 1,000 homes in a month, that's going to move that median home price number a lot harder than if we were selling 2,000 or 3,000 like we were a few years ago. So you kind of have to, context matters, and you have to keep all that in mind as you're looking through these statistics. So what's going to be our analysis on these Tampa Bay statistics? What can we make of this? So the trend for the last few years has been a basically teeter-totter balance between number of buyers and the number of homes for sale. For previous years, they have been relatively level, kind of going back and forth like this, right? So we'd have 6 months where there was a little bit more homes going up for sale than there were people buying it. And then, we would see a little bit of slowdown and price decreases and sellers becoming negotiable. The buyers would come back in late spring, summertime, and they would buy through all of the homes that were for sale, and then prices would start going up. And that's basically been teeter-totter balance since June 2022. And before June 2022, we basically had 12 years of just pretty steady price increases. It's, it was a little up and down in the early days, but we had at least a decade of just straight price climbs, at least so far as the overall trend goes. Median home price was on a pretty steady march up. Number of homes for sale was on a pretty steady price drop. And then, 2019, 2020, when COVID hit, all those buyers came back in the summertime, and that basically just blew everything to pieces. Basically, peak craziness, as I like to call it. So here's the perspective. We have basically recovered to 2019 levels of inventory. So it's not necessarily an overwhelming flood of inventory. However, a lot of news stories are calling it that because they are comparing it to the absolutely unsustainable markets of 2021, 2022. That sort of buyer supply imbalance is just absolutely not sustainable. So if you see news stories like that, you have to look into what they're actually comparing. If they're comparing things to COVID time, yeah, the percentages are going to look crazy because there was literally no homes for sale in that time period. So any sort of increase, it's kind of like that 550% number. It's basically like, oh, there's a 600% increase in foreclosures, but it went from, 2 to 12. Like it's not enough to really move the market that much. So, be a little wary of any news stories out there that are touting that stuff. Now, that said, there is definitely a imbalance between the number of homes for sale and the number of buyers. Currently, so far as time to contract goes, and also anecdotally with submitting offers for my clients, there are still plenty of houses out there that are getting multiple offers. So there's really kind of a split in the market. So there's houses that are, in good demand areas that are priced reasonably, that have a good amount of renovations to them. Those have very good demand, and those not uncommon to hit a multiple offer situation with those. And then there's another segment of the market that, everything's just kind of, maybe it's overpriced, maybe it's in a bad location, maybe it has like needs some attention or something like that. Because the thing to keep in mind with these numbers is that the median home price and the time to contract and all that stuff does not actually get counted until the house sells. That's what triggers that update, and that's how it all gets calculated. So there's a little bit of ghost inventory, I guess you could say, where there's houses sitting around for longer and longer periods of time. That said, we are still at about 3 months of inventory. That is a very comfortable level. And whenever you see a news story that purports that the market is falling to pieces and it's catastrophic, just know that those ratios and those numbers are like 2018, 2019 numbers. And no one at that point in time would have considered that market as falling apart. I'm not saying that home prices shouldn't go down or won't go down. I'm saying that it's too early to tell, and most of the news stories that are out there build those headlines to generate clicks and views, not to actually convey relevant information to you. Total number of active inventory is back to 2019 levels ish. Total number of sales is down though. And so that's why at this point, with that sort of mismatch, if the number of buyers, if the number of closed sales stays low, that inventory is going to continue to build. And eventually, yes, we will see a price decline if that imbalance holds. The tricky part is the number of buyers has been whipsawing all over the place. A lot of it depends on buyer sentiment as well as like awareness of the market. So in this year, you might have noticed we have an election coming up that usually dampens buyer experience a little bit, just optimism. And interest rates had been high. And although they just dropped, it usually takes a few months for people to find out that interest rates dropped, check it out and see if it's in a range that they are comfortable with. And then, make the decision to start the home buying process. So just because interest rates dropped and we haven't seen an immediate jump in the number of demand doesn't mean that it's coming, because that takes a long time to develop. The natural follow-up question here is Kyle, there's, let's just say 3 times as many homes for sale than there are buyers. How long will it take for a price decline to shape up? Well, the crazy thing is Hillsborough County has kind of been like that for 6 months, and their stats, their median home price is stuck at within a $10,000 window for like 6, 7, 8 months, which is crazy. That's not something you would expect. Pinellas County is, it's been kind of whipping all over the place, which is to be expected. Pinellas County is a little bit more of a, vacation and boom bust kind of market over there. So, but if we're talking like generalities, usually you need that mismatch for about 6 months before you start to see a significant price decline. And the reason why is because home sellers are reluctant to reduce the price of their house. So sellers naturally want the most money for their house. And instead of putting it up on the market for 1 week and then, not getting an offer, they're usually not going to cut it by like $20,000 or $30,000. So instead of that, they're like, well, let's give it another week. Well, let's give it another week. And about the 3 to 4 week mark is where, the first price reduction kind of gets entertained. So then they drop the price. And then again, everything kind of resets. If they don't immediately get an offer, they don't think, oh man, we need to drop this another 20, 30,000. They say, no, maybe it's an off week. And then let's give it another week. And then again, maybe week 3, week 4, they're like, well, let's drop it another 5 or 10,000 and try that, see what happens. So that's why price declines take a long time to develop. Sellers naturally want the most money, and they're also very reluctant to sell it for less than it could have sold for a few months ago. The other thing to know is that these numbers, the current time to contract, the housing supply numbers, all of that stuff is still very much seller's market territory. We're right at about 30 days time to contract. That is very much seller's market. The only reason that 30-day time to contract sounds terrible is because it was so short in 2021 and 22. But again, that was unsustainable, crazy time. If we look back to 2017, 2018, time to contract was 45 to 60 days. I would have killed for current market conditions in 2017 and 2018. It is very much a seller's market still. However, there have been improvements for the buyer side. Things are taking long enough now, and people are a little skittish enough, home sellers, that they are usually willing to negotiate significant repairs, potential price reductions, paying buyers agents commissions, and all of these things. On the buyer side, it's not the best time that it's been in the last 2 years. I would say that late 2022 was a really, really good time to be a buyer, but it is pretty good, I gotta say, in the Tampa Bay area. So, but that's basically the analysis. So, we've probably got another few months before we would start to see a price decline just from that inventory demand mismatch. And the thing is I'm not saying that prices are going to drop then. It's if demand stays low. If demand comes up, we have to see where that new level is. So, and again, I know that's annoying, but, I try not to make predictions. I just try to bring the information, because the thing is we don't know what's going to happen 2 to 3 months from now. We don't know where interest rates are going to be. We don't know, we don't know what consumer sentiment is going to be, and all of those things are critically important. So currently, so far as the market is set up, if this trend continues, we should see a price decline in a few months, 6 months, something like that. But I personally would not want to bet $100 on it, if I was being honest. I think it's much more likely that things will just kind of teeter-totter back and forth for a while until we get a very clear trend. Trends should not be kind of borderline or guessing. When a trend happens, it should be pretty obvious, and it's still a little confusing. Although, basically what we have here is we have the first indicator of a potential shift in the market, which is not the first one we've had in the last 2 years. It's just the most recent one. So anyway, that's my take. Thank you so much for watching this market statistics video. I know that analysis was a little longer than usual. If you were looking to start your home journey in the Tampa Bay area, if you were thinking about buying or selling a home, I would love to help you out. Best way to get started is to book a chat or a conversation, and the link in the description down below. You can book a time that works best for you, and I would love to have that chat with you and see how I can help. Other than that, I hope that everybody made it safely through Debbie, that you didn't get flooded or have too bad a damage or trees down or anything like that. If you ever have any questions about flood insurance or anything ancillary to housing, feel free to reach out. I'm here to be a resource and advisor to you. My name is Kyle Sasser. You can reach me at the contact link in the description down below. I look forward to helping you however I can. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll talk to you soon.